Hello and welcome back. Today we are returning to a subject we've talked about quite a lot before, Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab Ultradisc, one-step Ultradisc pressings. What this is the first of is this is the first analog original that I bought since MOFI Gate, so to speak. And I just want to, I've already unboxed it, but I just want to get the hype sticker cover out. So this kind of, if you imagine, this kind of dressed the box like this. So here we've got the MOFI Ultradisc one-step, now pressed on super vinyl sticker. And then down here, MOFI Eagles on the Border, special audiophile edition, limited to 10,000 units. And it says 1/4 inch 15 IPS Dolby A analog master to DSD-256 to analog console to lathe. But if we just go through what we get in the box, as we've seen before, they're very lovely packaged. It's kind of this rubberized material or box material, which is just, it is very, very delicious. It is also very, very, very prone to showing up fingerprints. But I found that just a cloth dampened in water, frankly, will kind of keep it reasonably clean. So anyway, here we are, Mobile Fidelity. Limited edition of 10,000. My one is number 5,868. So if we go through what we get inside, I've obviously already taken the shrink off. So there's a sheet of foam. They do pack things really, really well. Got a nice photo here on very thick kind of art quality card of the band. That's nice. A reproduction of the cover. I do like this cover image. And front and back. And then this is the interesting bit. So this is where we've changed from previous issues. So if I just read this out, to be perfectly honest, it's probably easiest. Instead of utilising the industry standard 3-step lacquer process, Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab's new Ultradisc one-step UD1S uses only one step, bypassing 2 processes of generational loss. While 3-step processing is designed for optimum yield and efficiency, UD1S is created for the ultimate in sound quality. Just as Mobile Fidelity pioneered the UHQR, ultra high quality record with JVC in the 1980s, UD1S again represents another state-of-the-art advance in the record manufacturing process. MFSL engineers began with the original master tapes, painstakingly transfer them to DSD-256, and then meticulously cut a set of lacquers. These lacquers are used to create a very fragile, pristine UD1S stamper called a convert. Delicate converts are then formed into the actual record stampers, producing a final product that literally and figuratively brings you closer to the music by skipping the additional steps of putting another positive and an additional negative, as done in the 3-step process used in standard pressings. UD1S produces a final LP with the lowest noise floor possible today. The removal of the 2 additional steps of generational loss in the plating process reveals tremendous amounts of extra musical detail and dynamics, which are otherwise lost due to the standard copying process. The exclusive nature of these very limited pressings guarantees that every UD1S pressing serves as an immaculate replica of the lacquer, sourced directly from the original master tape. Every conceivable aspect of vinyl production is optimized to produce the most perfect record album available today. There we go. So, familiar, if you've seen any of my other videos on these, and I've run through these a lot, they have actually inserted here DSD, quad DSD 256. So original master recording, quad DSD, lacquer, convert vinyl. So yeah, they're open about the DSD stage, and this is 4 times DSD, and it should be as transparent as digital gets. Although, in my opinion, you've still got to convert from analog to digital, and you've still got to convert back again. So, if it was if it was my choice, I would be replacing this with a tape copy, which would be typically referred to as a production master or a running master or whatever you want to call it. But it would be a first gen copy of the original master, and it would be used to produce your lacquers. Now, if you think about the Tape Project or Analog Productions Ultra Tapes, okay, we're talking about tapes here, but what they do is get an original master tape. They make, well, wherever possible, if it's a second gen, a safety backup or whatever, they'll specify that. But basically, original master to a tape production master, running master, whatever you want to call it, to the product you buy. So you know, you can make an exceptional quality end product with this extra step being tape. There is no need to convert it to DSD. But if you're going to go digital at any point, going DSD, 4 times DSD is probably the most transparent way you can do it. And obviously that contrasts with the more standard way of doing things here. So that's a description of the process and one step. So lacquer, which is cut, convert, which is molded from the lacquer and then used as the stamper to produce the vinyl. Now, the standard has basically 2 extra steps of pressing in it. So it's, you know, this is the theory why this sounds better. Now, we also get in here, let me just chip this. That's the base of the box. Again, lined in foam, all very nice. And we've got 2 LPs, LP1, LP2, because in addition to being one step and from the original master, albeit via DSD, these are cut at 45 RPM. So the album takes 2 discs. Inside here we get a further stiffener, and then inside here we get the LP, which comes in Mobile Fidelity's original master sleeves, archival quality, non-scratching, anti-static. They are very, very nice sleeves. And here's the vinyl, and we've got side 2 here, side 1. As with the cover, you can see here my fingerprints on the labels. It's there's something about Mobile Fidelity that they seem to make things very fingerprint attracting. But here we go anyway. So 45 RPM. You can see we've just got the first 2 tracks on side 1 already gone, and You Never Cry Like a Lover. And then on side 2, Midnight Flyer, My Man, and On the Border. So we've got a nice wide run out area. So basically you're not using this inner part of the record, which is where there's more distortion. So all good so far. And one final thing, I don't know if you can see this in this light. In fact, if I hold that and then hold up a something white behind it, can you see there? It is actually translucent, the vinyl, semi-transparent. That's basically, it's so pure. Very, very high quality vinyl. And there we have it. So that's what you get for your money, basically. And what I'd like to do now is talk about the sound quality. If I can get this back in its case. So let's talk about the sound quality, and I'm going to compare this to two things. I'm going to compare it to this, which is an original UK pressing. I don't have an original US, but this is my original UK pressing, and I don't know if you can see there's very little spindle wear around the hole. There's no marks whatsoever on the vinyl. It looks near mint, to be honest. That's my original pressing that I use to the reference, basically. And I also listen to it on Tidal. You know, a digital version just to give that a listen to. Excuse me, just a moment. Swig of coffee. So, I mean, for those of you who know the album, it's the Eagles' third album from 1974. I've already reviewed the first two, which I will put a link to up here if you want to check those out. So third album, 1974, and you know, as with the first two, it's very, very, very much country rock. It's you know, I'd say that's very much where it is. Almost verging on bluegrass on a couple of the tracks, but definitely sort of country folk rock. Very nice stuff, really. Now, listening to the original, let me take this out of this cover, because you will see here on the original that actually it's got a lovely, I mean, this is pretty old, and what is it, 50 years old nigh on, 48 years old. It's got a nice canvas textured cover, but it's I mean, basically you've got at least three guitars, probably three voices at most of the time. Obviously you've typically got one lead singer on any song, but there's normally sort of harmonies, and so really track after track after track of this. I mean, if we start with Already Gone, you've got a beautiful bass weight. That's I mean, the bass is really nicely recorded on this album, and it propels the music forward, and that you can say about every single track, really. The bass is lovely. Just kind of funny about a thing to say possibly about a band where you're thinking, you know, what's the Eagles? Or lots of guitars and lots of voices. Well, actually, it's the bass that just really propels it. Now, the negatives about this, just to, you know, I don't want this video to go on for hours, to sort of cut to the chase. The negatives about this, if I had to sum it all up, yeah, the bass is lovely. It really drives the songs, and they kind of boogie along. But the guitars and the voices really start to sound, they sound quite ratty, quite messy. It's not that pleasant to listen, really, and I don't subsequently play it very often. It's not the nicest album in the world to listen to. It's just a bit messy. Now, if you go to Tidal, which is the only digital product that I've got access to, I don't have it on CD, it sounds slightly less messy, but it just sounds bright and hard and really not nice. Yeah, I just don't, really doesn't sound nice. Now, and then we come here. Now, this is really interesting, and I've written some notes here, which I will, refer to here and there. So, start of side one, Already Gone. Now, bear in mind, this is the first time I'm listening to a MOFI One-Step that should have been analog sourced, since I knew that it wasn't. So I think there's inevitably going to be some sort of bias, some sort of expectation. I'd be listening out for something I wasn't necessarily listening out for before. So start off with side one, and this is kind of interesting, and I think you'll appreciate me chucking this in when in a couple of minutes' time. But Already Gone, I wrote, very quiet background, And actually, the overall level is quite quiet. I had to turn it up a bit on the volume control. So, got my notes. Warm, rounded, guitar's much less messy, vocals much less messy. Can hear the layers. Basically, it's not really messy, unlike the others. And it sounds very neutrally balanced. Actually, interestingly, it sounds, in its EQ, if you like, it sounds similar to the original, which is kind of surprising because MoFi, if they have a trait, is I would say they tend to push the bass up a little because in normal record pressing, you kind of have to EQ the bass down a bit just to keep the needle in the groove. And this really doesn't sound more bass weighty than the original. And that's kind of quite an interesting thing here because it's slightly surprising for a Mobile Fidelity. Anyway, just sort of going through track by track. You Never Cry Like a Lover, second track. Don's voice is really dead center, velvety. The timbre of the bass is really, really nice. It also sounds very, very, very nice. But still at this point, I had in my head, yeah, it's gone through a DSD stage. Does it sound like a DSD? Does it sound sanitized? Does it sound flat? Does it sound unemotional? And it was kind of, that thing was definitely hanging around in the back of my consciousness. Midnight Flyer. I wrote here, if anything, less bass than the original, which is curious for a MoFi. The pace, the resolution though, the pacing, the whole essence of the record, the pace seems to pick up on the choruses. I mean, it's kind of written about, a steam train basically, and in the chorus you just get the feeling of a steam train that's just, opening the regulator and just thundering forward a little bit faster than it was in the verses. The bass has got a beautiful timbre, tunefulness. The guitars are nice, and really, I keep mentioning this sort of timbre, tunefulness, in a sort of a scientific kind of way of listening to it, which I'm still thinking this is digital, or it's been digitized. Anyway, we continue. We're on to side two, by the way. I mean, we're on to side two with track 3, I think. My Man, lovely, warm, soft Valvigla, written beautiful pedal steel harmonies, so beautiful. So you can see my notes are just, I'm getting more and more and more sucked into this. And then On the Border, which is the last track of side 1 of the regular album and the last track of side 2 of this. And I've written funky, weighty, sounding better and better. Very good, clean, layered, smooth. You can hear all the layers. It's deeply groovy, funky. And then I wrote, by this point, I'm convinced that this album is a big step up on the original. Now, that is kind of interesting. So up until that point, I think I'd just been subconsciously kind of a bit tentative about it. And it's not, it's not the tidiest album in the world in terms of its recording. It's you've got all those guitars, you've got all those voices. It can err towards messiness. And so I think all the way basically up to, well, certainly side 1, getting on through side 2, up until On the Border, which is basically halfway through the album, I was kind of being subconsciously a bit held back. So we get to the end of side 2. Now, if you remember, I've listened all the way through this, both sides, this afternoon. I've done that. And then I've listened through both side 1 and side 2 of this, which is equivalent to listening to side 1 again. But by the end of On the Border, there's no question. In fact, by the beginning of On the Border, I was it had got me. I was hooked. So rather than going on to play James Dean, beginning of side 3, I actually went back to side 1 again because I just thought I've got to revisit that. So I put Already Gone on again. And I just wrote bass fab. It's fab. It's just, no, it sounds bloody marvelous. It really is good. So I think frankly, I was just confirms the fact that when I started listening to it, I had a kind of a bias against it, if you like, because of the because of the hoo-ha, the scandal that they thought about themselves through not being open and honest. Anyway, so just to briefly carry on, so we get into side 3, James Dean. I've just written here: the guitars are burning, searing, bass tuneful, laying down layers, good funky groove. And as we go on, track after track after track, on fire, it's grooving, it's rolling along. Lovely space, multi-layered guitars, a steel guitar, bass, drums, multi-layered vocals, etc., etc., etc. And that's really kind of my notes for the rest of the album. So, sound quality, I won't give it a 10 because I don't think it was a 10 when it was recorded. I think it is a little bit messy. But I'll probably give it a 9 because it frankly it annihilates this. And whilst the cover on this is a bit sort of stained and tatty and just weather, a white cover that's nearly 50 years old, it's not white anymore. That's really the only issue here. The vinyl in itself is in great condition, but it sounds messy, frankly. The bass and the drums and the massed guitars, the massed voices is just kind of a bit of a messy noise, but it's propelled along by the bass and drums. On here, you hear the guitars that are laying down the rhythms. You hear the guitar solos. You hear the voices, the harmonies, all the little layers and effects. I mean, it really is it's remarkably better than this, which is all analog, of course. Regarding the digital version, I'm going to say I don't have a CD, but I listened on Tidal, and frankly, I thought that was pretty horrible. So, if you know the album and you like it, I'd say 100% get this because it really, really, really does sound good, and I'm actually looking forward to the next one. It's kind of these are honestly, I frankly I'd gone off the Eagles with Hotel California. No, not Hotel California. I went off the Eagles with Hell Freezes Over, which I think was released in the 80s or 90s. But I was in the hi-fi industry and it was just played to death, and I couldn't. Frankly, it's a bit like Eric Clapton unplugged. I had several. I've had a good couple of decades have just been unable to play that record, and same with the Eagles. But this is really, really, really good. So, yeah, 100%. I would recommend it. Finally, I'll say thanks to David Brooke of thevinyladventure.com, and he's the one who supplied me this record. Thoroughly good. I'll put a link to his website down in the description below. And finally, I'll just say thank you to all of you for watching. If you like what I'm doing, please click the like button because that helps with the YouTube, promotes the video a little more, and also subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and that just again helps with the YouTube algorithms and helps my channel basically. So thank you very, very, very much indeed. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you now. Goodbye. Bye.